In this part of the book, Frankl talks about logotherapy as a technique. How logotherapy seeks to treat neurotic cases can best be understood by giving an example. A condition very common in a neurotic person is anticipatory anxiety. Anxiety about something that's in the future. This can be a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you're afraid in advance that you'll blush when you enter a room, you're even more likely to do so. Some things you just can't force, no matter how hard you try. Frankl calls this hyperintention, and it is observed particularly in cases of sexual neurosis. The more a man tries to demonstrate his sexual potency, or a woman her ability to experience orgasm, the less they are able to succeed. Pleasure is and must remain a side effect or a byproduct, and is destroyed and spoiled to the degree which it is made the goal itself. Just like excessive intention, excessive attention, Frankl calls it hyperreflection, can also lead to sickness. Frankl now tells us about a case he once had. A woman who had been sexually abused in the past wasn't able to experience orgasm with her partner. Frankl soon figured out that this experience wasn't the cause for her neurosis. Through reading psychoanalytic literature, she'd lived constantly fearful, expecting that her traumatic experience would someday take a toll on her. Her anticipatory anxiety had resulted in excessive intention to confirm her femininity and excessive attention upon herself. She wasn't able to experience orgasm because she wasn't able to fully surrender to the pleasure of sex and her partner. Frankl was able to help her, de-reflecting her attention away from herself. Similarly, Frankl once talked to a young physician who was anxious about how much he was sweating in front of patients. He advised him that he should the sweating begin again, simply deliberately show people how much he could sweat. After suffering from this phobia for years, this patient was able to free himself from it within a week. This is called paradoxical intention, deliberately practicing a neurotic habit or thought to remove it. As you can see, logotherapy is simply reversing the patient's attitude, taking away the fear. By this treatment, the wind is taken out of the sails of anxiety. For this to work, you have to have a sense of humor, especially about yourself. The neurotic who learns to laugh at himself may be on the way to self-management, perhaps to cure. Frankl asked his patients who fear sleeplessness not to fall asleep, but stay awake as long as possible. This paradoxical intention was always followed by sleep. Paradoxical intention may sound very straightforward and even too good to be true. But Frankl is completely sure that this therapeutic device can result in long-term effects. He doesn't believe in the Freudian thesis of the durability of results corresponds to the length of the therapy. Certain factors can cause neurosis during early childhood, and entirely different factors can relieve it during adulthood. And neurosis can be made much worse through a constant feedback loop. There may be a symptom being reacted to by a phobia. The phobia triggers the symptom, and then the symptom in turn reinforces the phobia. Does that make sense? This vicious cycle can be cut by getting the patient to stop fighting his or her obsessions. Instead, he or she should figuratively laugh at them by applying paradoxical intention, causing the symptom to diminish. So now we know that anticipatory anxiety, hyperintention and hyperreflection need to be countered with de-reflection and paradoxical intention. That's a lot of big words. Anyways, all of this is not possible if I'm not oriented toward the mission of my life. What? Did you think Frankl wasn't going to talk about meaning in this part? Well, you're wrong. Thank you for listening. Today we talked about how anticipatory anxiety can be a self-fulfilling prophecy, which can be treated with paradoxical intention, which is the practice of deliberately practicing a neurotic habit to remove it. And we talked about how hyperattention and hyperreflection can be tackled by de-reflecting our attention away from ourselves or a particular goal. Some things are only achievable if you don't try to force it.